What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Mad God. After appearing in many film festivals starting at the very end of 2021, Mad God is the writing and directing feature-length debut of Phil Tibbett, who has worked on some shorter films, including 3 Mad God short films that he now would be able to realize into a film, and this will be coming out on June 16th on the horror streaming service Shudder as an exclusive and original to the streaming site. And Phil Tibbett, the writer and director, has so many credits when it comes to his special effects work, going back to the original Star Wars trilogy, Jurassic Park, Twilight, and so many more. What's going on, everybody? Thank you again for stopping by to this video. If you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you to hit the subscribe button as we talk about all things movies and TV and all kinds of other fun stuff here on the channel. And if you are a regular and you're coming back to this video, a big thanks to you for stopping by and hearing my thoughts on Mad God, a movie I got to check out just a little bit early, so depending on when you're watching this movie may or may not already be out. But yeah, this comes out on June 16th exclusively as an original for the horror streaming site Shudder. So again, a big thanks to them for sending me an early screener for this movie to check out. And I honestly haven't really been in the best headspace lately when it comes to just making videos, so I've been a little bit slower with my film kind of coverage lately, and so because of that I've actually missed out on a couple of early screeners that I could have checked out and covered, and now are kind of a few weeks in the past and they've already been covered by so many other people, and I've just kind of moved on. And Mad God, I was on the fence on whether or not I was going to cover it, but I'm so glad I did. This was such a weird and unique film. I don't fully know how I feel about it just yet, but there's so much about this film that is so interesting and unique and has its own identity that I just absolutely knew I had to cover it here on the channel. First of all, kudos to Phil Tibbett for finally being able to direct a film. Like I mentioned, he's had so many credits in so many different kinds of franchises, films over the decades when it comes to his actual practical special effects work, as well as, you know, being a supervising director of different kinds of special effects work on various projects. And yeah, you know, it's really great to kind of see how far the man has come, and the fact that he was able to turn, you know, these 3 shorts that he had titled Mad God that I have not seen, to be completely honest, into a feature-length film that would, you know, end up debuting on a streaming service like Shudder. On that note alone, I gotta praise the man for his hard work, and when you watch this movie, you see a master at work when it comes to the stop-motion animation, which is what this movie is all about. And going back to some of his earliest credits, that's what he was credited for doing in Star Wars, along with other things. But yeah, a lot of the miniature work, a lot of the stop motion work, which is definitely some of the coolest stuff that when it comes to the special effects in the original Star Wars films. Now, when it comes to Mad God, man, I gotta tell you, I don't really fully know how to feel about this movie. When it comes to a technical aspect of actually how this film was made, and not only did Phil Tibbett write and direct this, you know, he was also part of the photography of this film and the actual stop motion like action himself. He was actually part of that process. So this man was hands-on when it comes to this project, and I just gotta praise the guy because, I mean, there's so much work went into this movie. This movie looks great. There's so much about this movie that just really lends itself to being probably, honestly, maybe one of the better made in terms of visuals stop motion films. Of course, there are so many classics at this point, and, you know, probably one of the most notable ones being something like A Nightmare Before Christmas. But yeah, you know, when you look at something like this that just kind of feels like gross and grimy and kind of put together in this really artistic way, yeah, it really goes to show what stop motion animation can truly do. Something about this film very much felt to me like if you've ever played the games Inside or Limbo or things like Little Nightmares, something like that, where you have a silent protagonist who's going through this ridiculously insane, kind of wacky, gross and grotesque, and sometimes just completely nonsensical world that sometimes has a message that's really clear, and at other times makes you question what the hell is going on. And so when it comes to Mad God, I really enjoyed the fact that we were able to take stop motion animation, which is personally one of my favorite animation styles, and really take it on this weird, wacky adventure where we are seeing all kinds of nasty creatures and ugly monsters and kind of really cool creature designs and some really simplistic creature designs, and this dystopian world that, you know, kind of has these various symbolic messages wrapped in throughout it. And yeah, I gotta really praise Phil Tippett for like all the work that went into this, just on a technical level. Whatever your thoughts are on terms of its symbolism at times, and whatever your thoughts are in terms of it as a movie in and of itself, which we'll get into in a second, just the amount of work that went into putting these sequences together throughout the course of the film, the amount of moving pieces. I mean, there are dozens of things that are constantly moving within a frame, and stop motion takes a lot of work. And even some of the best stop motion films at times will really focus on a character or two at a time with, a nice, really cool location, a miniature location that they're able to take this character on an adventure with. They really will a lot of times hone in on one thing with a couple of shots here and there having some things going on around them. But when in the case of Mad God, there is so much going on in this movie, just in the background, in the foreground, just off to the sides. There's so much about this movie that just really lends itself to being a really impressive stop motion animated film, and that alone kept me engaged. At a certain point, I won't lie, because this film has absolutely no dialogue whatsoever outside of a couple of moments that don't really, tell a story, just a couple of moments where words are actually said. Yeah, this is a movie that after a while could become a bit boring for some and kind of feel like a bit of a chore to watch. But honestly, because of my love for stop motion animation and just the amount of, artistry that was kind of on display here for me, and how much I really, really admire stop motion, the work that goes into it, I was honestly really captivated from beginning to end. And I think this is a movie that's really going to do that to a lot of people. If you're like me and you have that taste, that you enjoy stop motion animation, especially creepy animation. Obviously, this is on the horror streaming service Shudder, and I won't say that this is necessarily an incredible film when it comes to horror. I don't really think this film is absolutely horrifying, but if you're one of those people who is creeped out by stop motion animation, I know many people who have told me they can't even watch something like A Nightmare Before Christmas simply because of the fact that the stop motion kind of freaks them out, or people have told me that they freak out whenever they see the stop motion in things like Beetlejuice. Yeah, I think this is a movie that's going to creep out many. I think if you're somebody who's kind of creeped out by stop motion animation, yeah, the imagery of this film is definitely going to creep you out, because this film also doesn't really utilize an abundance of music. When it does have it there, it definitely heightens the moments. But this is a movie really based on visually grotesque monsters and gore and, bodily fluids, and just kind of like going for shock value and bizarre as much as possible. And so, yeah, I think that depending on who you are, this may actually creep you out. For me, not so much, but I really like creepy imagery. And at times this, really, like I said, kind of felt like one of those games I mentioned before, Inside, Limbo, or Little Nightmares. But at other times, it just felt like it was really just going for as bizarre as it possibly could go, just over the top, wacky imagery, sound effects, and just craziness. But amidst all of that, even when I wasn't really sure how I felt about the film, or even at times where I felt myself kind of feeling maybe taken out of it a little bit because I felt like maybe the movie was a little bit too long, I was always really impressed, again, with just the amount of artistry that went into pretty much every shot. And I've been talking about the stop motion animation, but what's also really impressive is there's a blend of stop motion animation with live action at times, as well as some digital effects that ultimately makes this film feel dirty, grimy, different. It has its own identity, and yeah, that's something I really thoroughly enjoyed about this film. This film, like I mentioned before, has a lot of symbolism and messages, and I can't sit here and lie to you guys or pretend that I understood everything that was kind of being said to the audience at times. There were times where I felt like they were kind of leaning into something symbolically, but then it would kind of just get so bizarre and crazy at times that I questioned if I was kind of reading into it too much, which very well could be the case. This is the kind of movie I feel I may need to see a second time to even grasp a lot of these different concepts and things that are going on, because you go from place to place and scenery to scenery and different, stop motion creatures and characters that are coming in and out of this movie, that at a certain point you just are so bombarded with so much going on that you don't really have a lot of time to really ponder over the different messages and symbolism. The biggest thing I took away from it was the idea of control from those above. You know what I mean? The movie's called Mad God, so there is an element of kind of a godlike figure kind of, watching over this madness in a way, and kind of sending individuals into it and out of it. It was an interesting thing at times, but it was a little bit confusing. I would have to honestly say that I'd probably have to maybe read something that the director said himself, maybe an interview with him, to see if there's a little bit more to this that I didn't really necessarily grasp onto on this first watch. But there was definitely elements about kind of like what's fed to the mass public from those above, you know what I mean? And how it's just essentially us kind of a lot of times eating bullshit, you know, for lack of a better word. And so, yeah, again, I could be totally off on that point. And I think that's kind of the thing I struggled with the most in this movie, is that it is so bizarre and wacky and crazy that sometimes it made me feel like I was supposed to be leaning into something symbolic that I'm supposed to be seeing in front of me, but then it would get so bizarre and crazy that I really started to kind of lose which direction it was going, or if this is just supposed to be a shock value kind of thing. And then the movie is about an hour and a half long, and even though it kept me engaged because of the amount of artistry put on screen, I can't lie and say that I was absolutely 100% entertained the entire time. I did find it to be overly long for what it is. There is a lot that I feel that could have been trimmed out, but then even saying that, right, I have to still acknowledge that even in those moments where I thought that to myself, that this is something that could have been shortened, while watching it, I found myself engaged in what was happening. I found myself really interested in the story being told, not necessarily the story, but the artistry on display. The stop motion never stopped, you know, the hard work that was being put into this piece of, you know, media was just so impressive to me that it kept me engaged, even when I thought that I was a little bit bored, and even when I thought to myself, this is going on for longer than it really should. And even in those moments, there was times where I would kind of get re-interested in what was happening, but then it would just kind of get super bizarre again and kind of lose me a little bit, and then I'd get back into it, and then, you know, I kind of lose my way a little bit. So as you can tell, I was a little bit all over the place with this movie, and that's kind of how the film feels while you're watching it. Just a huge, bizarre, crazy film filled with monsters and you know, I don't know, creatures and little stick figure yarn people to kind of symbolize the everyday person, but then also these other mechanical beings and creatures, and there's, you know, commentary on war and all these different things. And yeah, you know, there's a lot that this movie's touching on. There's a lot that's going on, all without any dialogue, just over-the-top, bizarre, crazy, shock value imagery utilized in a stop motion format. So yeah, take from that what you will. Honestly, I found this film to be honestly really impressively made. I am looking forward to hearing what all of you guys have to say about this. I know that because this film has been, you know, slowly been shown through various film festivals, that there are already reviews you can find here on YouTube for it. But with it now showing up on Shudder on June 16th, I figured more people are going to be able to start checking this movie out and being able to kind of look for reviews and talk to people about this movie. So yeah, I want to invite all of you guys to comment down below. What did you think about this movie? What are your thoughts on the movie? I'll definitely get down in there in the comments and have a discussion with you guys. What did you see in the movie that you feel maybe I missed? Were there things that maybe I saw that you missed? Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? What was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part? Definitely want to hear what all of you guys have to say. A big thanks to you guys for watching. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.